I work at a pretty large tech company and have been there for around 5 years now. Over time, I moved into a senior management role, and recently, I got pulled into helping assemble a new internal team. Part of that meant sitting in on interviews and giving feedback on candidates. Even though the whole thing was thrown together pretty quickly, we'd also just gone back to in-person interviews, so the process still felt a little disorganized. A few weeks ago, I was reviewing the interview schedule for the day when I noticed a name that immediately caught my attention. Tom. At first, I thought there was no way it could actually be him. It had been well over 15 years since high school. But the second he walked into the room, I knew. Tom had been one of the guys who made my life miserable growing up. He was the classic athletic popular type, while I was the overweight kid buried in AP classes and theater productions. High school was rough for me in general, and he played a pretty significant role in making those years harder than they needed to be. When he first sat down, he didn't recognize me. But after a minute or two, you could see it click in his head. Suddenly his entire tone changed. He started acting overly familiar, talking to me like we'd been old friends back then. I just went along with it and kept the interview professional. To be fair, he interviewed fine. Not amazing, not terrible. Just average compared to the rest of the candidates. Nothing about him really stood out. Toward the end, though, he laughed and made a comment along the lines of, "You'll put in a good word for me, right?" I laughed it off, and that was that. Later, when I was submitting my evaluations, I gave him an extremely negative review. I minimized his strengths, exaggerated his weak points, and included a note claiming he attempted to leverage a prior personal connection to influence the hiring process. I'm 35 years old now. I have a solid career, a completely different life, and I'd like to think I've moved on from who I was as a teenager. But seeing him sitting across from me brought back emotions I honestly hadn't felt in years. For a moment, it felt like I was right back in high school again.